Hello and welcome to the Improv London podcast in Chicago. This is a bit of a chatty session with Iain and Stephen for Stuart's Improv London podcast. So, first of all, why are we in Chicago, Stephen?
Well, we're on the IO 5-week intensive, which takes us through levels 1 through 4B of their improv program in 5 weeks.
That's right, yeah, they basically run this every summer, and there's, I think, 144 improvisers from all around the world. They did a quick sort of straw poll at the first meetup, and there's Americans, there's about 10 or 12 Brits, but there's people from Bulgaria, Denmark, Netherlands, or Australia, all over the place. So we spend 4 days a week doing improv from 11 to 5. There's a whole host of shows. For those of you who don't know, we're at IO in Chicago, which is one of the main sort of centres and influences on improvisation. So that's why we're here. Why did you want to do it, Stephen?
Because I really like the IO style, the sort of slightly more organic and connecty, emotion-y style, as opposed to sort of, I think the other big American schools tend to be a little bit more intellectual and premise-heavy, and I just really gravitate towards the way IO play.
Yeah, I think I do too. I mean, speaking to people like Katy and Jules from the Maydays, and they kind of like that style too, I think, and it just feels really good to me to do it. Although premise is fun too.
It is, but I think all of my favorite players in London play this way and/or have taken this intensive. So in wanting to get myself up to that level or closer to it, it seems like a natural choice.
Sure. Yeah, I've been hearing Maria and various other people talk about this for years, and I've just been meaning to do it, and this year was the perfect opportunity. It's also a chance to get better fast, because within reasons and other things like doing a job, I kind of want to get as good as I can quickly, and there's some amazing teachers. So what have you been doing this week?
Well, week 1, it was a lot of just sort of introduction to the philosophy of improv and how to do it just in a very basic way. They move really fast, though. We were doing an Armando in the middle of the week and a Harold by the end, which is a fairly advanced format, I would guess.
Yeah.
I think a lot of beginner classes, you wouldn't get to that point in like a 7 or 8 week beginner course, but you do at IO, so that's great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do about 20 hours improv per week, improv classes, which I guess is about the same as an 8-week course. I mean, we are because there's so many students, over 140, that it's actually split into 9 groups. So Steve and I are in separate groups, but they're all kind of working to the same plan, although we do have different things according to what the groups need. Yeah, for me, it's been a lot of building blocks. We too did a Harold at the end of the week with a lot of support and a bit of nudging from our coach Rance. And then this week we move on to different teachers. So this week, I believe we're doing character, which I think is going to be interesting.
Yes, I think that'll be really fun. I'm curious to see their approach.
I'm thinking we might have, the old exploding space monkey character, but also a lot on point of view and character wants and stuff. Yeah,
I mean, point of view and stuff like that works better for me character-wise. So I think, although I suspect that's the IO way as well, I'm kind of hoping there'll be a little bit of stupid, big character-y stuff, just because I don't naturally do it.
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, part of the reason I'm doing this is to push my boundaries and expand. So yeah, if we just do stuff I'm safe with, it's not going to... I mean, I'm sure it will. I'm already feeling that. We did do a thing on character once this week, last week, that is. Did you? I'm not sure if you did it.
No, my group didn't do that, but I heard from a few others that they had done. Is that the one where you get the piece of paper with what your character wants?
Yeah.
What did your character want?
My character wanted to be mothered, and my scene partner wanted me to talk her out of suicide. So we were both quite needy from each other, but it was a really cool exercise, and I have done something like that before, but we concentrated a bit more on sort of making sure we let the attempts to get our desires land, so that we didn't just say them and hear what the other person said. We actually reacted to it, which I think was part of the drill, because I was very much into grounded stuff.
Yeah, I think having an active goal to try and get something from the other person sort of will make you connect in a different way, as opposed to just assigning yourself a characteristic.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. IO does do stupid very well. I mean, we've seen some great shows we'll talk more about later, but it's not all talking people out of suicide and stuff like that. So it's been a really interesting first week. We don't actually have a week titled Scenes until the third week, but I think all this stuff's building up to it. We also did some openings and things like that. So we did an invocation, which I've done in London, but I kind of thought it was a bit wanky.
That was my exact word as well.
Yeah. Whereas because Rance got us being really sort of emotionally into it, and which some might say is still a bit wanky, but I actually got to kind of see how it worked. Were there any sort of things you thought I particularly want to work on improv-wise when you came over here?
Well, I think, bigger choices is something that I always want to push myself. I don't think I'm terrible at it per se, but I think it's hard to find that balance between being skillful and making your partner feel safe, and adding in the random crazy element. And I feel like I play slightly safe sometimes.
Right. For me, I kind of had a few ideas. I mean, one of the things I think I struggle with, because I've done improv with quite a few different teachers, is finding out my own sort of path through the styles and how I want to set that balance. Because I think you can see different premise stuff and organic stuff as different tools on your tool belt. But I've had sort of head freeze in scenes where I'm like, oh, do I do a premise now or do I do a more organic response? Find that. I'd also noticed over the last few months I tend to play it slightly safe when we're doing exercises in workshops, and very rarely go up first, sort of kind of like, I'll just watch a couple of pairs of people do it, and so I get the hang of it first. So I decided to push that straight, really. I like the idea of big bold choices too. I think that resonates with me too, and this week we've really been pushing this idea that in fact, it's really been the mantra for the week for me, is strong choices get support. If you're doing a kind of weak, almost apologetic choice, kind of people like, oh, do we go with that or do we hold back? Whereas if you make a big, strong choice, everybody's going to come with you, at least if you've got a decent team.
Yeah, it's tough because I think, especially if you're doing something really premise heavy, you come out with your who, what, where, what the game is, here's my character in the first line almost, and it does sort of feel like you're steamrollering the scene a little bit. So I don't want to be making big choices quite in that way, and so I think it's just a matter of looking for a way that they're still fun and don't restrict the possibilities too much.
Yeah. It's a fun one to get the balance with, I think. So we'll see where that goes. On that subject of style, I've just remembered Katy Schutte said something to me about, I think, probably just a few days before I headed to the airport, which was to try and do stuff in your style but be prepared to adapt to other people's. If they initiate, and it's obviously another style, to have the tools to adapt to it, which I think is really cool. I know what you mean about scenes where you sort of dump everything. Oh, that reminds me of another thing we talked about this week, which I think I've heard before, but it kind of clarified it this week, which was a lot of people, when they do the who, the what and the where, the who's more of a what, it's father and son or something, whereas there's all sorts of shades of that relationship.
Right.
You could have an authoritarian father, or a pair where they're just kind of mates, almost.
Exactly, right.
And the whole dynamic's going to be different in that.
Or like if you're cast as somebody's wife in a scene, which happens a lot, are you like Florence Henderson or are you Lady Macbeth?
Yeah,
she was somebody's wife.
Yeah, sure. Right, here's a question we actually talked about on the bus on the way to I.O. or back. But what are the favourite scenes this week that A, you've watched, and B, that you've been in?
Oh. Wow. I think it's really hard to, especially on a podcast, describe a scene in an interesting, entertaining way that doesn't just sort of make people think, oh, I guess you had to see it. I did a fun scene where I picked somebody up, and I'm just very physical, so I enjoyed that. And I like that my group has gotten to the point where I knew what was okay to do that in the space of a week, and I feel like we've bonded really well. And sort of already had the discussion about who's cool with what, and I was like 100% sure I was good to pick a stranger up, which normally a couple days into a course you wouldn't do that.
I feel like I've known my group like months and months, and it's only 4 days, and we've bonded ridiculously quickly, so that's all good. How about best favourite scene you've watched? I guess that could be from the shows as well as workshop.
Oh, that's true. You go first.
All right, I'll go first, because I thought about this, because I put together these questions, although we did circulate them beforehand. And it may well have changed since I did this. I think my favourite scene to be in was in our Harold. We'd had an interesting monologue, or several monologues, because we kind of swapped in and out, which came off, I think, the suggestion cherry pie, and we started off with things like homely things and going back to the family home and stuff, and then we started talking about people going missing, and that reminded me of an incident to do with the London bombing when people weren't sure if they were coming home, and it kind of went on about that, and a bit, so people who'd been on the train behind one of the ones that got blown up, and one of the guys in our group just initiated, looking really distraught, and I can't remember the exact wording, but it very quickly just turned into this "thank God you're safe" thing, and we talked about how, because he'd been on he'd been in one of the Tavistock Square in London doing exercises, which is, I think, the one where the bus blew up. So we both had a narrow scrape, and it was just really, it was such a cool initiation, and somehow I just knew that was what he wanted to do. Well, I hope he did. Maybe he didn't, because he didn't actually say, "We've just missed getting blown up." But I kind of took from the monologue that was the serious incident. To watch, oh man, that's a tough one. Going back to that once exercise, there was a really fun one where, not involving me, where one of the characters wanted everyone to think she was funny. And the other character she wanted to be included in social activities, and it was really funny how tense it was, and the one who wanted to be thought funny kept telling jokes, and then she did another one where she said, "Oh, I heard a really good joke from Tom, blah 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 blah," and the other character laughed, and because the people watching knew what the want was, because the performers were sent out of the room beforehand, we thought, all right, she's going to get her one, and then other characters said, "Yeah, that Tom's a really funny guy," which got a massive laugh. I also enjoyed something in the I enjoyed lots of what we saw in the show last night. We went to see a team called Cecilia, who are a Harold team, and Deep Schwa, who also do Harolds. Deep Schwa have been around for I don't know exactly, but probably 20 years or so, because one of their members is Jeff Griggs, who wrote the book Guru on Deltones, and I think he was the sort of person who got assigned to look after Del and make sure he, shortly before he died, by China. And they were basically, one of the characters, Brett Lyons, kept pimping two of the other performers into doing songs, and he kept coming and saying, "We've just had a letter from HQ saying you've got to build in these fonts and names, and it's got to rhyme," and he kept pimping them, and they sort of gallantly went on, and then sort of probably 2/3 of the way through, Jeff Griggs did a walk on and said, right, we've had another letter from HQ, it says they want you to do the song, so that he kind of reversed it on him. And then we had another game where he was constantly making up excuses not to do it and reasons, and everybody else was problem solving, which was fun because they say don't problem solve, but here it was, I think, just the thing to keep the game alive, which is cool.
I feel like that kind of thing is really satisfying for an audience as well, because even if you don't know anything about improv, you can see right away that that guy's being a little bit of a dick and probably deserves to have it done to him as well.
Yeah, that got quite a cheer when Jeff Griggs reversed it. That was really fun.
I think one of my favourite things to see was actually also in the Deep Schwa show, because a lot of heralds that I've seen are sort of so textbook that you can just follow the beats without even thinking, because they don't go very far away from what the first beats were. But I really thought that they used theme really well to get themselves further away, and I was able to turn my brain off and just sort of get into the story and enjoy the scenes. But the thing that made it clear what the herald structure was, just like that, was the physicality, where they had some alligators and just some physical positions they were on stage, and that was the thing that made the structure clear. And if I hadn't been paying attention to that, it would have just been a series of scenes that I enjoyed. And so I really like that they used the format in that skillful way and used physicality rather than bringing out the same boring games 3 times in a row.
The physicality
the format.
Physicality was just brilliant last night. Picking one of them up to be a human rope and the assault course with the alligators. I wish I'd got a camera.
Picking people up again.
That was just fantastic. Any particular sort of life improv lessons, quotes, or exercises that particularly hit home with you this week?
I wouldn't say a particular quote or lesson, but I thought the very first week I was slightly trepidatious that because I'd been improvising for a while, I thought, am I going to learn anything new in this very first week, or is it just going to be group bonding and stuff? But actually, the valuable thing was the way it was taught, because there weren't any exercises I hadn't done over the week before, but the why of how we were doing them, the why we're doing them was really well explained and thought out, and you could just sort of tell as the week went on and all the bits fell into place that it had just been lesson planned beautifully. I think Matt Higbee is a lesson planning ninja, and every single thing he did and said fit together like clockwork in a really masterful way, and that just made me happy as a teacher that he put that amount of thought and effort into the syllabus, because I think a lot of people tend to just sort of half-ass that and think, well, I'm a good improviser, I'll just show up and say things about improv.
Doesn't mean you're a good teacher.
Right?
I had Rance Rizzutto, for those of you who didn't recognise it from Rance, who's in various things, including groups, including the Deltones. I thought it was really well put together. Every exercise had a point and fitted in beautifully. What else did we have this week? I'd kind of heard this one from Susan Messing, but it's the idea that it's not that we want to make the audience laugh, we want to make them feel. And I mean, you can make them laugh, and certainly can, but you can also have touching moments like that bomb scene I was talking about earlier. What else did we have? Rance came up with this thing, TED, which is the idea of the sort of priority in scenes and things like the themes, which is the T, E for emotion, and then the detail. So kind of the big emphasis on the more conceptual and emotional and relationship stuff, rather than how you bought a new car with gold-plated wing mirrors or something. It might be a nice detail, but if you get the emotion and the theme in there first, it will inform everything else, which I'm really liking. Yeah.
Details are much more satisfying if you sort of already know why they're important. And I think it's a nice sort of, what's the word? It's nice to take the moment to fill that in after a heavy thing has happened or after something interesting has already been laid down, because just pacing wise, it's a slight gear shift, but it's enriching things, sort of making things deeper rather than pushing forward.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There was another fun one at World News, which I went to see a couple of evenings ago, and the idea of saying yes and stuff. The sort of setup. If World News, if you haven't seen it, they basically read out newspaper clippings, and then the performers do scenes off those. They had one about, I can't remember the name of the people, but it's to do with the American presidential election, and one of them had said he'd chosen his running mate to bring the party together rather than as a friend. So they started doing a scene about somebody who hadn't got any friends, which was rather nice. And then I don't know the names of all the performers, but one of them sort of said, you're in New York, haven't you got any friends? Now, if you're just going to say yes, that kind of blows up the whole premise of the scene, because the idea is he hasn't. So he said no, in a very doleful way.
That's a fun character to play.
Yeah, and then they continued with that, and he said something about, except Billy's really cool. And the other person in the scene with him was like, you just made him up, didn't you? And this time he said yes, but if that's still playing the same sort of game of this lonely character who hasn't got any friends and mates him up to,
very sweet.
Look good. I thought it was rather a cool lesson. It was a lovely scene, funny but a little bit touching. Right, any shows you saw this week?
Wow, we've kind of covered that. I think... Yeah, I saw a bunch of things. Deep Schwa was probably my favourite.
Yeah, we talked about Deep Schwa quite a bit. Just mentioned World News there, which was excellent fun. Really enjoyed that because I did that format a few weeks ago. Saw a few others. I saw Improvised Shakespeare on Friday, which was really fun, absolutely frantic paced, really nicely done. I don't know how they kept track of the plot. There was one brilliant scene where one of the guys was killing everybody with kitchen implements, and there was only 5 in the cast. One of them staying off for a reason I can't remember, but 3 of them kept dying and then running off stage and coming back in, and it was just really fun to watch. Also saw they're doing a new show format here this year, and it's basically the idea that they have some performers who do a scene, and then you get a chance to do a Q&A with them afterwards and sort of ask them about their motivation and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a really fun one. And really informative as well. And they seem to be being really sort of open about their motivation and how they were feeling.
Yeah, I saw that as well, show and tell. It's a really interesting teaching tool, I think. I don't know that I saw any scenes that I was deeply affected by.
No.
It was just sort of, some scenes.
Yeah.
But I liked that idea for a format, and I think especially if you were new to improv, that would be a really interesting way to dig into it a little bit and unpack what was going on.
Yeah, I definitely want to go again this Tuesday because I think they're doing a Harold, so that'll be interesting. And it also struck me how there were times where they sort of said they felt the scene was missing something, so they threw something in to try and address that, be it energy or emotion or whatever. And it's kind of like, these guys are teachers at IO, but they're still not doing the perfect move every step of the way in the scene. They're kind of but they kind of realise when they wander slightly from the path and pull it back.
For me, that lack of perfection is one of the appeals of improv. I mean, if you wanted to just do perfect scenes all the time, surely you just write a sketch show.
Yeah. I think that's kind of it. You do get the chance to refine, and it's the old mistakes as gifts thing. And I can think of loads of times this week where something's happened and then it became something that gets repeated because it's funny. What else did I see? I saw the Deltones. They were great.
Nice.
They did this really fun song where they were combining 3 fruits into one. It was just stupid but very funny. And I saw Molly, which is Susan Messing, and Norm Holly, which was really fun.
I love Susan Messing.
Is that all I've seen? I think it is. I say all, that's about 5 shows. We've got TJ and Dave lined up for this week, 3-peat. get to see Revolver on Friday. I was a bit too tired to do that this week, but and a couple of others I've forgotten. Any other improv stuff you want to talk about?
I'm just excited to go forth and improvise more this week.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of weird. It feels like we've been here weeks to me, whereas it's only, it's 10 days now, I think, so I got here just before the weekend and then a week back sort of thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to week 2. Non-improv highlights?
The food in Chicago. Yeah, I could very easily get over-enthused about a lot of this stuff.
Actually, Stephen wasn't here when we did this, but a few of us went out and had deep dish pizza, which is almost more like a flan or something, but it was delicious. And we had sushi, which was also delicious.
Your first sushi.
That was my first proper sushi. And Stephen taught me how to use chopsticks decently. And then we went and saw Don't Think Twice, which is a really fun film about improvisers.
Yeah.
Probably laugh more if you're an improviser, because there's some things you go, they're doing that improv thing.
Yeah.
I've also enjoyed riding the train, because I'm a bit of a train geek.
They're good trains.
They are. It varies a bit, but they're quite often sort of up on raised tracks, a bit like the DLR in places in London, only it's much, much older, so it's kind of got all this old metalwork and stuff.
I really like the maps that they have in every carriage. So every carriage of the train, there's a whole map of the train system, and there's a little light bulb for every stop, and the light bulb of the stop you're approaching and or at lights up.
Yeah,
so you don't have to look out the window and struggle to see or listen for an announcement. You can just see in the cool little light up
really
board.
Cool thing. Yeah, I like that very much. Right, I guess we'd better eat breakfast and then head off to I.O.
Breakfast!
Morning.
Just in time.
That's our other flatmate, just walked in. All right, well, we'll say goodbye for now and we'll give you some more update in a week.
Yeah.
This has been Ian and Stephen for the Improv London podcast.
I made this.
That's improv!